But of course, it's time now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the good news, the bad news, and the other shit. Conspiracy Wednesday. Yeah. Conspiracy Wednesday. Man, what a day, what a day, what a day. Enjoying the topics, enjoying the chat room. Matt McAllister is still giving us updates of that history related to, the videos we've been watching. What a day. Shortened segment today. A couple of the topics they came across, thought they were definitely worth discussing. I think the main one, first of all, let me give you the Pussy Riot update. Many of you have been paying attention to the whole Pussy Riot story since we started covering it. This is a protest punk rock band, very active in the Soviet Union. Did a whole protest movement when the church was visiting. Ended up getting a bunch of the members 2 years in jail. Wow. So a lot of people are coming out to speak on behalf of them.
Right.
The one member that is free has decided to take her case to the European Court, trying to seek some relief, again, for the Pussy Riot members. So I just want you to be available. That's an ongoing situation with Pussy Riot. So
the idea here is that one is free, but they were all similarly charged for the same thing.
This one got out. I can't remember either she was not part of or did something else. I don't know the exact things, but this is the only one that was free. The others got 2 years.
So they separated who was doing more from some. In other words,
I don't know the circumstances of why she was freed versus the other one.
Okay,
because it's a bigger group than the actual numbers of the ones who were sentenced.
Okay.
That's the one thing.
Okay.
So we'll have more. Now, remember, next week is our off week, so we'll have some more in November.
Okay.
It seems to be an evolving story.
Yeah.
Now, the one big piece that we did want to make sure we covered today was this whole issue that's ongoing of the discussion of a potential military strike against Iran. As you know, people are discussing military strikes against a variety of places. Here's a report that says a military strike on Iran would only delay their nuclear development. Let's take a look.
Iran's disputed nuclear program has managed to dominate headlines for years. And today, as U.S. officials continue debating over a potential strike against Tehran, a newly released report weighs the advantages and consequences of taking military action. Joining me now to talk more about this topic is Dr. Austin Long, the Associate Professor of International Public Affairs at Columbia University. He's also the co-author of a new report titled Weighing the Benefits and Costs of Military Action Against Iran. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dr. Long, a bipartisan group of national security experts are the authors and signatories of this extensive report. According to your findings, is Iran's nuclear program currently a threat to the U.S.?
At present, it's not a threat to the United States. Iran's nuclear program is under our International Atomic Energy Agency inspections. The work that they had previously done, according to the U.S. intelligence community on nuclear weapons, has been suspended. So at present, Iran's nuclear program is not a major threat to the United States. The concern is that it could very rapidly become one.
How rapidly?
In less than a year, according to some estimates, and other estimates more than a year. A lot depends on whether you're talking about the production of the fissile material, the highly enriched uranium for a bomb, or an actual deliverable weapon. A deliverable weapon would take longer. Production of fissile material could, within a few months, produce enough for a bomb.
Wow, within a few months. Well, within a few weeks, Americans will be heading to the polls to vote for a new U.S. president, or keep the current one in the White House. Many believe that Israel has seen this time as a window of opportunity to strike Iran, dragging the U.S. into a war. Is there still a threat that it would do so in the remaining weeks?
I think that concern about a possible Israeli strike was higher a few weeks ago. The Israelis are now dissolving their parliament and calling for new elections on January 22nd. So this, I think, changes a lot of the previous calculation. People that thought the Israeli government might act before the U.S. elections, I think, now tend to believe they'll wait until at least after U.S. elections, if not actually after the new Israeli elections.
Now, opinions vary, but do you think Iran has an intention to acquire a nuclear bomb?
I mean, this is literally the $64,000 question. There's a pretty good read on what Iran's capabilities in terms of uranium enrichment are. The big question, which I don't think anyone can give a highly confident answer to, is does Iran want what people refer to as a threshold capability? In other words, this ability to produce a nuclear weapon quite quickly, or do they want an actual deployed weapon? According to the U.S. intelligence community, and I think most other observers, Iran just hasn't made that decision yet. In part because they don't need to. They want to get to that threshold capability before they make any decisions about whether to go further than that threshold, because there's no point in making that decision early. In fact, it might be detected by Western intelligence, and so you could tip your hand before you get to that threshold. So I think that decision hasn't been made.
You don't seem to be putting the threat level of Iran's nuclear program as high as some U.S. officials. The Republican candidates, for example, Mitt Romney and his vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan, have been in past weeks essentially saying that Iran is a major, grave threat. Are they exaggerating at all with their rhetoric?
I don't think there's a tremendous amount of exaggeration that Iran is a threat generally. I mean, the United States and Iran have had a pretty hostile relationship for 3 decades, actually more than 3 decades now. They have, had problematic relations in the Gulf. They've had conflict via proxies in Iraq. So I think it's not wrong to say Iran is a threat. The question is whether Iran's nuclear program is a real threat to the United States at the present, and it isn't at the present. But
we keep
the concern
threatening
is,
people; they all go trying to build
very
weapons.
quickly become
that's
a threat.
one of the big incentives.
So let's go back to your report. According to the findings, an extended U.S. military strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, whether it be alone or in concert with Israel, could set back Iran's nuclear program for 4 years. But it still would not guarantee that Iran would not eventually acquire a nuclear bomb. Why is that?
It's because the technology Iran already has. Some pieces and parts they need to acquire from overseas, but unless you can guarantee that you can kill off everyone in Iran that has knowledge of these programs and their ability to produce these basic components, such as aluminum rotors, you can't guarantee that the program can never be restarted. So you can destroy what they have now,
if any of them
but their ability to rebuild that,
the whole area is gone.
Make it take a very long time to rebuild. That's
Lebanon,
what kind of long-term military commitment would the U.S. have to make to ensure that Iran would never be able to build a nuclear bomb?
I mean, it would be similar to what happened with Iraq. The only way to ensure a country does not acquire a nuclear weapon is to forcibly change the regime and go in on the ground.
Occupy it.
Occupy, yes. That's the only way to 100% be sure that the current Iranian regime never acquires
occupy everybody.
So we're talking about a 10-year war. Lots of
be.
casualties.
Potentially, it could be Iran as a larger country than both Iraq and Afghanistan combined.
You can fight wars forever.
You're talking about a war that would certainly be on that scale. Whether it would be 10 times harder, not quite as hard, who knows? But it would be a very substantial military commitment.
Should the U.S. be concerned about Iran's unconventional war capabilities?
I think the United States should definitely be concerned about Iran's unconventional war capabilities. By its nature, it's harder to sort of define what unconventional war capabilities are. I mean, you can count airplanes, you can count missiles. Unconventional, it's a little harder to judge, but Iran has a robust capability for unconventional war. They have special operations forces, they have clandestine services, they have a variety of capabilities to conduct attacks without, not in this sort of typical military way.
At the end of the day, is this really just a problem for Israel? Iran's possible determination of acquiring nuclear weapons, or is this a problem for the U.S. as well?
I think it's a problem for the entire world. I mean, certainly the entire world has asked Iran to clarify its intentions and has taken steps. I think it's a much bigger problem for Israel than the United States, if for no other reason than proximity and size.
Wow. But you know what? This is going to be an ongoing issue with the world, the ability to make a nuclear weapon, the ability to make weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
That's a worldwide ability almost. And at least if it's not, everybody's ready to sell it to you for cheap. So the idea of folks having these potential weapons, that's a given. It's also, if to no offense, if you go look and see who your own country sold it to, you'd be really shocked.
Right.
It's not really the other guys. We are the biggest supplier of military weapons in the world.
This is
okay.
happening.
So don't think it's really the other folks all the time selling them weapons.
When is this message happening under a political election? Yeah, am I missing something there? Let me just say this, and I'm only saying this. There are independents who are out there saying we don't want to advocate war, but we also want to take advantage of the political election in the U.S. to have our moment, to become more the go-to person talking about the subject. That's the best time to talk about it. So is this more important since Iran has already constantly been in the news as it relates to the potential nuclear threat? Why is this so much more now?
Because the president got to look strong. They need something to talk about.
Okay,
so one of the things they like to talk about is who ass they kicked.
Okay, so
I killed Osama bin Laden.
Wait a minute.
And you know what? Then they got on Obama because he said he killed him. But then another guy, I was watching the commentary, but I said, you know what? Had he not, they say, well, Obama's wrong for taking credit for killing Osama bin Laden. And I said, well, in a sense, I kind of feel that way too. But on the other hand, had he failed, you would have given him credit for failing.
Right.
You would have definitely said, well, he didn't get bin Laden.
Nope.
So you would have held him responsible either way. So the whole thing is bullshit, Vic.
No, well, wait a minute.
It's dog and pony shit.
I'm going to have to admit something. I'm part of that community that takes full advantage of the media when the time is ripe to become popularized by the subject we present.
Me too.
So we are pimps.
We should pimp
Mario's pimp too.
We want to pimp the media. Is that not right? Are we not?
We are.
Are we all in this? We should pimp the media
so
as much as we can pimp them. I'm telling you, bend over. Squeal like a pig.
Look, if you guys think we're making light of this, I sit there and say, what's the difference? The person handing you the candy who's smiling and have wider attention, or the person who's serious about it says, get serious about this, and they wear a serious face. I said the one that's laughing at you is a lot more devious than the one that's pretending that they're really mad. So what is this report about?
The truth is, and that's part of the issue with even dealing with Conspiracy Wednesday, is that there's so many ways to take these things. No matter what opinion you have this sinking feeling that you're somehow being manipulated.
That's right.
In terms of your thought. No matter what opinion you have, almost,
right,
there's a part of you going, are they manipulating? Because there's so much stuff coming at you.
Yep.
You don't know what, remember the Matrix. What happened in the Matrix? Like he said, what you got in there said, "Oh, we sponsored all the last revolutions.
Right.
We sponsored you. We sponsored you.
Yep. Yep.
So remember that, because a lot of stuff at the end of it all, I told somebody and we talked about this 20 years ago. When I said, and I predicted the militarization of the police.
Right.
When the Soviet Union fell, I said, they got to do something with all that technology.
Right.
Watch them militarize your police.
Right.
They got to sell that stuff to somebody, so it's going to come to your police.
True.
And then, of course, when you make up an enemy that you can fight forever, it was bad enough that we were waging wars without declaring war.
Right.
Now we have an enemy that we can fight forever because he's everybody but nobody, and he's everywhere, so how could you ever win? Right. So how could it ever be over? It'll never be over, and they'll spend your money forever.
I tell you what's more prevalent, you guys, right now? Ethnic unrest in your neighborhood, economic plight, lack of redevelopment in your neighborhood, and your neighborhood may be only 5 or 10 miles in the perimeter. What's more prevalent right now? The nuclear potential of what could happen. They did this with Russia back in the 40s, moving to the 50s. So what happens after this election is that they'll go back to the economics of your local jurisdiction of concern. So the message is that you're more apt to suffer from things right in your regional neighborhood that extends 10 to 15 miles out.
That's right.
So don't get caught up.
And remember, you can go look at some of the studies. Historically, the two parties disagree on usually anywhere from 10 to 12% of the budget. So remember that. Historically, your Democrats and your Republicans usually agree on approximately 90% of the budget from the get-go.
Right.
Okay, I'm just telling you that.
Right.
And why is that? And why are we spending over $600 billion a year on the military when the next country spending is at $115 billion?
Yep.
At China. Why is that?
See, I want to.
That's where your money goes.
I want to change the new symbol of having monetary gain. Bullish on America. You know the big bull with the horns. You know Merrill
Big
Lynch.
horn up your ass.
Yeah. You know I want to change it so it looks like a rhinoceros having that horn, and that horn is pointed up. Okay.
Ooh, Jack be nimble, Jack be quick.
Well, yeah, we used to call it getting goosed. And when you're getting goosed around the political climate time, don't just remember that rhino starts from down here and comes up.
Who Lord?
That's all I'm saying.
Who Lord?
Change it.
Give me some raggets and some greasermagen.
That's wrong.
All right, you guys. It's part of Conspiracy Wednesday. I got to lighten it up. So I want to lighten up before we come in. We had a abbreviated show, Conspiracy Wednesday, today because of the musical performance of Nils. But I wanted you to see this. This James Bond, they called it a James Bond car or James Bond vehicle. It's a combination jet ski and all-terrain quad bike combo. They call it the Gibbs Quad Ski. It's equipped for both land and water. It can retract its wheels when enter the water, and then it can deploy the wheels when coming out of the water. It can transition between the two modes in just 4 seconds. Take a look at this piece. I wonder if we have a big old ad over the front of it.
Of course you're going to have an ad.
We got an ad for your ass. We got funny ads.
I just want to
sleep
know,
ads.
when you present this piece, just can it fight off sharks? That's all I want to know.
Land shark?
Yeah, I don't care. Just can it fight off sharks?
For Mashable, I'm Logan Tittle. Next time you have to make a James Bond-style getaway, don't let water slow you down. With the Gibbs Quad Ski, you can drive off the dock and keep right on going. The Quad Ski rolls a jet ski and an all-terrain quad bike into one vehicle. The secret is in the suspension, which uses parallel joints to pull the wheels up and out of the way when you hit the water. It's notable for its quickness, both the top speed it can go on land and in water, and the speed at which it can jump between the two. You can
like
drive
her.
straight into water, and in 4 seconds, the wheels will fold up into the hull. Once you're waterborne, you can pull 45 miles per hour, which Gibbs says
Whoa.
is quite the boost over the competition. Other amphibious ATVs, like the Argo,
How
can go
much?
3 miles per hour on water, or about 10 miles per hour with an extra outboard motor. So if escaping spies who have infiltrated your secret lair is a
Beat up.
priority, go with the quad ski. Otherwise, James Bond might just outrun you. For Mashable, I'm
I
Logan.
kind of like her.
So I guess the purpose of that video is that you're not paying attention to the vehicle whatsoever.
Yeah, well, you
So
know.
what's the message, you
The
guys?
message is that it's Conspiracy Wednesday.
Right.
And we had wonderful music today.
You know what? That's all right. I don't mind anything in the water, but show the ocean and then go deep. And then just be around a pack of sharks. I want to know, can you just...
No, Shark will come get you.
That's all I want
Snap
to
your
know.
head off. Everybody, that's the good news. The bad news and the other shit. Noonie, 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 poop, pip, skid it up, put, dibbity bop.